Hi, and welcome to The Dreaming Scientist, a quiet place in deep space with softly spoken science for sleepy minds. Tonight, we will be easing into a calm thought experiment. What if Earth's gravity suddenly doubled overnight? We'll walk through the science at a gentle pace, how bodies, buildings, weather, oceans, and even satellites would adjust. No hype, just clear, sleepy facts. Settle in, breathe slowly, and let curiosity carry you toward rest. But before you do that, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also comment down below where you are watching from. It is always intriguing to know who is watching us from around the world, and thank you so much for being here. So what would happen if the Earth's gravity suddenly doubled? Picture waking up and every single thing in your room feels as if someone quietly doubled it in weight during the night. Your blanket feels heavier, your phone weighs more in your hand, and even your eyelids seem to ask for one extra blink before they open. That's all 2G means. The pull of gravity is now twice as strong as yesterday. We won't worry about why it changed. We'll just walk calmly through what that new pull would do. Think of gravity like a careful but very persistent helper, always tugging down. When that helper gets stronger, anything that depends on weight feels it first. Standing up, climbing stairs, lifting a bag of groceries, jumping, or even turning a doorknob while your arm is stretched out, these acts now ask more from your body because your body and everything you move feels heavier. Other things change more gently. A boat, for example, still floats because it pushes water aside, and the water is heavier now in the same way the boat is heavier. Those two effects cancel, so floating still works. A river still flows downhill, but the pull is a little stronger, so water can carve its channel a bit faster and carry slightly more sand and silt before dropping it again. The air above us is like an ocean we can't see. Gravity holds it down. With stronger gravity, that invisible ocean is squeezed a little tighter toward the ground. That makes the air close to us a bit denser and the air high above thinner than before. Clouds, fog, and breezes will still behave like themselves, but some details, how easily small puffs of warm air rise, how low morning mists hang in a valley, shift in a quiet, noticeable way. If you drop a cup from your table, it hits the floor harder because it's sped up a little more on the way down. You might not catch the difference with your eyes, but your ears will hear a crisper clack. Birds and planes face a tougher job because they must lift twice the weight against a sky that is now packed a bit tighter near the ground and thins out sooner with height. Buildings, bridges, and shelves don't instantly fail. Most were built with safety margins on purpose. But the parts that were already close to their limits, an old bolt, a tired cable, a cracked step, will tell on themselves sooner and ask for repair. Even the orbiting machines above us feel it. Satellites stay up by moving fast enough forward that they keep missing Earth as they fall. When gravity is stronger, they have to move faster to keep missing. Some would not be fast enough and would begin to sink into thicker air and burn. Through all of this, remember a calm idea. Nature loves balance. If we nudge one side of a balance, gravity, we don't get instant chaos. We get a lot of small rebalancing acts. Muscles learn, cities adjust, rails and ramps, pilots change checklists, gardeners choose sturdier stems, and maintenance workers add braces where needed. It's still the same world, just a world that asks us to slow down a little, respect the ground a little more, and make kinder choices for knees, bridges, and birds. Let's move slowly through the very first minute after gravity doubles. You swing your feet to the floor and pause, not because you can't stand, but because your body is taking a second to get organized. When you stand up on a normal day, a bit of blood slides down toward your legs, and your body tightens certain blood vessels so your head still gets what it needs. With double gravity, that slide happens more strongly, so your body has to react a touch more. You might feel a tiny swirl in your vision for a heartbeat, then you're fine. Your first step is shorter. Your heel touches the floor a little sooner, and you naturally keep your feet under your hips instead of taking big strides out in front. If you're holding a mug, it feels like a full mug even if it's empty. You set it down more carefully because the extra weight makes your wrist feel honest. A cupboard door you always let swing shut now closes with a firm click. A plant hanging from the ceiling stretches its cord straighter. Outside the window, little scenes play out. A cat crouches, springs, and misses the countertop by a whisker, then pretends it never tried. Sparrows hop instead of flitting to a high twig. A cyclist pushes off, rolls 2 meters, then downshifts and finds a calmer rhythm. Nothing is broken. Everything simply chooses smaller moves. If you drop your keys, they hit the floor a little faster, and the sound is sharply familiar and oddly new. Traffic looks the same, but there are quiet differences. Tires press the road more firmly and can grip better, but suspensions and brakes are doing more work. On a sidewalk, an older neighbor stands from a bench, sits again with a grin, and stands once more using the armrest, this time teaching his legs what the morning now asks. A child picks up a backpack and says, "Whoa," but manages. A parent ties the straps so the load sits closer to the spine where it is easier to carry. A jogger starts, then chooses to walk briskly instead, deciding that today is a listen to your joints day. Even sound feels a touch different in some places. Rain might sound deeper on a metal awning. Footsteps on stairs may sound fuller. Furniture slides less willingly across floors. In a kitchen, a drawer that used to slam now glides because someone added a soft, close catch last year. Small kindnesses like that start to shine. In your pocket, your phone feels heavier, so you don't read it with your arm fully outstretched. You bring it closer, which is easier on your shoulder. That first minute carries a simple message. The world didn't become dangerous. It became honest. Anything wobbly, loose, or poorly balanced politely steps into view and asks for a fix. Your body shows you a new, gentler way to move. Smaller steps, closer loads, a hand on the rail, and then gets on with breakfast. Your body is very good at adapting, and it prefers slow, steady changes. When gravity doubles, you don't become helpless. You become a student again for a few weeks while your systems relearn how to share the work. Your heart is a pump that must push blood up to your brain. Standing and walking at 2G means the blood in your legs wants to stay there more. Your body answers by tightening certain vessels in your legs and belly, and by letting your leg muscles help push blood uphill with each step. At first you may feel lightheaded when you stand quickly, so you learn a small trick. Stand in 2 moves or flex your calves before you rise. Over days your heart gets slightly better at the job, and your total blood volume may climb a little so there's a comfortable reserve. Breathing also adjusts. Your lungs are soft and stretchy. The muscle that does most of the work, the diaphragm, now pulls down against heavier ribs and belly. You might breathe a bit faster and less deeply for a short time, then you practice slower, deeper breaths, and the muscle strengthens like any other. Stairs and hills feel steeper at first. You rest more often and discover there are handrails in places you never noticed before. Bones like the extra load. They respond by getting a little denser where it matters, which protects you in the long run. But joints, tendons, and the soft pads in your knees and spine are slow to remodel and don't like pounding. That's why people switch to softer shoes, thicker mats at kitchen sinks, and a more roll-through-the-foot walking style. If you are very tall, your back and knees feel the change more simply because long levers magnify weight. If you are shorter, you enjoy a quiet advantage. Eyes and ears tolerate steady 2G well. What they don't like are quick spins and jerks, so you learn to move smoothly. If you live with heart or lung conditions, the city's design matters. Ramps instead of big staircases, benches every short distance, elevators that open quickly, cooler rooms in summer so breathing is easier. Children adapt quickly. They grow strong legs without getting bulky, learn to lift with their legs, not their backs, and make a game out of close carries, keeping school bags snug to their bodies. Elders guide everyone else by pointing out where small changes help. Make the step at the shop a little lower, add a rail at the bus stop, place stools where people stand to work, choose door handles that don't demand a long reach. Little daily habits change too. You put heavy items on lower shelves. You slide things instead of picking them up when that's kinder. You push a laundry basket on a small cart. You take the long way around if it means the ground is even. None of these are losses, they're skills. After a month or two, your morning routine feels normal again, just with better shoes, a gentler pace, and muscles that learn to share the load without complaint. Most buildings won't crumble in a heavier world, because most were built with extra strength on purpose. Engineers plan for surprises, big crowds, strong winds, lots of snow, small earthquakes, and they give beams, columns, and connectors room to spare. Still, a doubling of gravity asks those parts to do more, and the pieces that were already tired or rusty will speak up first. In homes, you'll notice top-heavy furniture wants to wobble. Bookcases and tall dressers should be strapped to the wall. Wall anchors that were okay become not okay. You'll reach for stronger ones. Hanging plants, light fixtures, and ceiling fans will tug more on their hooks, so the hooks and the ceiling attachments need to be solid. Stairs feel steeper, not because the angle changed, but because each step costs more effort. Shallow steps and sturdy rails suddenly feel genius. In apartments and offices, elevators need sturdier cables and stronger brakes because the cabin weighs more. That doesn't mean they fail, it means they run slower at first while crews upgrade motors and counterweights. In warehouses, tall racks that used to be barely stable become too risky. Managers lower shelf heights, add cross-bracing, and bring in small gantry cranes so people roll loads instead of lifting them. Bridges each tell a different story. Arches and trusses, those pretty arrangements of triangles and curves, spread weight cleverly, and many will carry on with only extra inspections and a few added plates or bolts. Very long suspension bridges depend on big cables and sturdy anchors. If those cables were in perfect shape, fine. If they were aging, 2G finds the weak strands faster, and crews move in with clamps, new hangers, traffic limits, and, if needed, lane closures and emergency retrofits. Road cuts and hillsides along highways are honest too. Dirt and rock on steep slopes are held in place by friction and roots. Double the weight, and you double both the pull down and the push back, but wet layers, old slide zones, and shaky fill from past construction are more likely to slip. Engineers respond by improving drainage, adding rock nets, cutting wider benches into slopes, and planting deep-rooting shrubs and trees that knit the surface together. Under buildings, foundations press the ground more, but strong soils can take it. The places that complain are old riverbeds, filled marsh, and soft clay. There, you'll see small cracks that open and close, doors that stick, tiles that pop. The fix is boring and effective. Inject grout, add posts, lighten or redistribute loads, and be patient. Inside, ordinary items change personalities in small ways. Drawers slide heavier, you might add better runners. Doors swing with more intent, soft closers help. Cupboard hinges work harder, you tighten screws into proper anchors. Ceiling drywall around heavy fixtures gets backing plates so weight spreads out. In short, a heavier world doesn't demand heroics, it demands maintenance. Walk through a building with a pencil and tape, anchor the tall things, brace the long things, drain the wet things, and soften the steps. Do that, and houses stay cozy, shops stay open, bridges keep their views, and daily life goes on with fewer surprises and more quiet pride in doing the little fixes that keep everyone safe. Moving through a heavier world is less about bravery and more about good habits. Walking still works, but the smart way to walk changes. You'll take shorter steps, keep your feet under your hips, and let your foot roll from heel to toe instead of slapping down. Your arms help with balance, but you hold things closer to your body so your shoulders don't have to fight long, heavy reaches. Stairs are still stairs, yet you'll love shallow risers, solid handrails, and rest landings that break a long climb into friendly pieces. Sidewalks that have a little give under the surface feel kinder to knees and ankles. Think rubber mats under paving stones or boardwalks built with springy joists. Benches every short block are not decoration, they are part of the street's kindness. Bicycles stay wonderful for short trips because wheels do most of the work. You'll switch to wider tyres with lower pressure for comfort and grip, fit better brakes, and use low gears so your legs turn smoothly without straining. Heavy baskets move to the frame or a small cargo trailer so the load sits low and stable. Cars still run, but details matter. Heavier weight means tyres press the road harder and can grab better if the surface is good, yet the car's suspension and brakes must now do more work. Mechanics fit stiffer springs, stronger dampers, and check brake cooling so pads do not overheat on long hills. Stopping can be shorter on dry, clean pavement because grip scales with weight, but wet leaves, oil, or ice still erase grip, so speed limits and driving style go gentle. Trucks reduce payload so bridges and frames aren't abused. Rail becomes a quiet hero. Steel wheels on steel rails were designed to carry huge loads efficiently. Trains simply add cars, spread weight across more axles, and keep schedules steady. You feel it in your day. More frequent local trains, less need to drive long distances, calmer commutes where reading a book on the way becomes normal again. Ships stay the backbone of heavy freight because floating is honest physics. A boat floats by pushing aside water, and in 2G, both the boat and the water are heavier in the same way, so the balance holds. Ports adjust cranes, winches, and mooring lines for bigger loads, and dock ramps are built with shallower angles. Short ferries across rivers and bays beat bridges on busy days because nobody is sprinting upstairs. Everyone boards level, sits down, and the boat does the lifting. Flight is where the story gets careful. A wing must push air down to push the plane up. When everything weighs twice as much, that job becomes much harder. You can make wings bigger, fly faster, or tilt the wing more, but each choice has limits. Many small planes and helicopters are grounded at first because they don't have enough power or runway. Over time, the planes that do fly use long runways, high-lift wings, and efficient engines. Air travel becomes rarer and more specialized, used when it truly saves lives or time. Meanwhile, airships and hybrid lift craft show up in niches where speed is not urgent and smooth, low-energy transport matters. Inside cities, gentle machines fill the gap. Elevators with stronger cables, funiculars on steep hills, moving walkways in big stations, and parcel robots or handcarts that roll heavy things instead of asking people to lift them. The new rule of motion is not don't move, it's move smart. Keep loads low, use wheels, share the lift with ramps, rails and hoists, and let speed be modest so joints and brakes live long. You will arrive, and you'll arrive with energy left to enjoy being there. Our air is like an invisible ocean pressed against Earth by gravity. If gravity doubles, that ocean is held a bit tighter near the ground. Think of stacking extra blankets on a bed. The bottom blanket feels the most weight. Near the surface, the air becomes a little denser. Higher up, it thins out sooner. What does that mean when you look out a window? Fog in valleys and low places can hug the ground more stubbornly at dawn because the heavier, cooler air sits there comfortably until the sun has time to warm it. Cloud bases over plains may sit a little lower on certain days, and small, weak puffs of warm air that once rose and made little cloud tufts may now fizzle before they can grow. But when the day is truly warm and moist, and the wind patterns are right, storms still build. In fact, the storms that do form can look a bit sharper. Tall, flat anvils at the top, clean edges, and strong updrafts that had enough fuel to beat the heavier squeeze. Rain changes in a way your ears will notice. A raindrop falling through denser, low-level air under stronger gravity reaches a higher top speed before it splats, so rain on roofs and awnings sounds deeper and a little more forceful even in a regular shower. The air's buoyancy, its habit of letting warm air rise and cool air sink, still sets the stage for thunderstorms, sea breezes, and mountain winds. But the lines on the map shift slightly. Morning sea breezes along coasts arrive with a cleaner front, and mountain caps, those pretty clouds that sit on peaks, cling tighter because pressure drops faster with height now. Wind near the ground often slows a touch because denser air rubs more on buildings, trees, and the surface. Yet gusts inside storms feel meatier. The same push of wind carries more mass and has a bit more punch. Indoors, ventilation can actually improve if designed well. Each litre of air brings a few more oxygen molecules, and filters catch particles a little better per pass. That means schools, clinics, and homes feel fresher on the same fan settings once ducts and inlets are tuned to the heavier flow. The speed of sound depends mostly on temperature, so voices don't change pitch, but sound carries differently. On cool, humid nights, the city's hum travels slightly farther and feels rounder. Your footsteps on a wooden stair tread thump lower. Rain on a car roof has a richer note. Hiking changes because thin air shows up at a lower altitude than before. Trails that once felt easy at high elevation now ask for more rests. Clouds wrap ridges more often, and the view may be misty until late morning. Pilots and weather forecasters redraw charts. Cloud height rules, icing layers, turbulence zones, and takeoff calculations all get new numbers based on the denser lower layers and faster pressure drop with height. Gardeners notice dew lingers a bit longer on calm mornings. Roofers notice wind loads on panels and tiles feel different and adjust fasteners. City planners notice that trees planted to shade streets move a little differently in wind and choose species with stronger branch unions. The heavier sky is not unfriendly, it simply has a slightly new personality. Quieter weak clouds, crisper rain sound, a dawn fog that asks for patience, and a fresh afternoon when sun and breeze sort the air into a clear, comfortable mix again. Stand at the beach and watch a wave come in. In a 2G world, the wave still rises, curls and breaks, but gravity pulls the top down faster, so the breaker collapses with a sharper sigh and the foam rushes shoreward a bit more decisively. In shallow water, the speed of small waves depends on the square root of gravity times depth, so many nearshore waves travel about 40% faster. That changes the timing surfers and lifeguards feel in their bones. Tides are made by the pull of the moon and the sun. Those celestial pulls haven't changed. What has changed is how high the ocean can bulge against stronger gravity. In many bays, the tidal range, the difference between high and low, shrinks somewhat, though local shape still matters the most. Narrow inlets may still roar. Wide shelves may see gentler rises and falls. Boats continue to float because floating is a balance of weights, and both the ship and the water are heavier in proportion. What changes is gear. Ropes, winches, anchors, cranes, and fenders all feel more load and are upsized so crews work safely without straining. Harbours rethink ramps and gangways so slopes are smoother and handrails are everywhere. Diving deserves care. Water pressure grows with depth times density times gravity. At the same depth, pressure is roughly double. A dive to 10 meters now feels like 20. Airspaces in masks, ears and lungs compress more. Bubbles shrink smaller and expand faster on the way up. Training and ascent rules adapt. Shallower dives, slower rises, longer safety stops. Coasts that crumble easily, soft cliffs and loose bluffs, can erode faster where quicker waves bite, while marshes and mangroves that trap mud may build up faster if they're given room to migrate. The best defense for many towns remains living shorelines, oyster reefs that break waves, seagrass that slows water, and wide fringes of marsh that take storm energy out of the surge. Rivers entering the sea mix and drop their loads a bit differently. Heavier waves push back into mouths with more authority, so deltas redraw their channels and sandbars move with a new rhythm. Ports answer with dredgers on calmer schedules, and by letting some side channels stay wild so floodwater has safe places to go. Storms over the sea still heave water toward land, but how high that pile reaches depends on wind, air pressure, and the shape of the shelf. Stronger nearshore waves and heavier rain can raise flood risk, so towns lower seawalls into step terraces that people can enjoy on normal days and that soak up energy during storms. Fisheries feel the change mainly at the human end. Nets are heavier to haul, winches take more strain, crews lean on mechanical helpers and lower deck heights to keep lifting safe. Underwater, fish and shellfish carry on. Buoyancy evens the score. Ice floats and drifts as before, though heavier snow can press winter sea ice differently, changing when and where it breaks. For families on a weekend, the beach still gives simple gifts: the hiss of foam, the clean wind, the horizon. The difference is that coastal towns plan with the new physics in mind: wider dunes, smarter harbours, sturdier stairs, clearer signs, and visitors learn smart habits. Respect flags, time the sets, keep children close in the wash, and enjoy this stronger sea with calm attention. The land beneath us is a patchwork of hard rock, soft soil, roots, and water. With double gravity, the push down on every grain of sand and every slab of granite increases. Most bedrock simply shrugs. It was strong yesterday and is strong today. The changes show up where ground is already near its limits: steep slopes, loose fills, old landslide scars, and places where water sneaks between layers. On steep road cuts and canyon walls, more small rockfalls and slumps happen, especially after hard rain. Engineers answer with drains to get water out, benches to catch small slides before they grow, rock bolts and mesh nets to pin loose faces, and planting of deep-rooted shrubs and trees whose roots stitch soil together like a quilt. Retaining walls feel larger sideways pushes from the ground behind them. Owners add tiebacks, footings, or relief drains so water pressure doesn't build. Rivers cut a touch deeper, especially where banks are soft, because the stronger pull helps water carry sand longer before it drops it. Over many years, that can make channels a little sharper, floodplains a little lower, and terraces, old river steps, more obvious on hillsides. Earthquakes are trickier. Quakes happen when faults that are stuck finally slip. Extra weight changes how tightly faults are pressed together and how fluids in tiny cracks behave. In some places, that could bring a fault closer to failure. In others, it could clamp it a bit more. The effect is local, not a worldwide switch. The good news is, the things that make communities safe in 1G still work in 2G. Flexible buildings, well-tied roofs and walls, simple light furniture that won't fall, and drills that teach people to drop, cover, and hold. Volcanoes care about how easy it is for gas to escape from rising molten rock. A heavier crust puts more overburden on magma at depth, which can keep bubbles trapped longer. In some volcanoes, that means more gas leaves quietly through soil and vents, and eruptions stay gentle. In others, it means gas comes out later and faster near the surface, making certain eruptions puffier and ashier. Scientists who watch gas flow, ground swelling, and tiny quakes will give smarter warnings as they learn each volcano's new habits. Over long time, mountains may grow a little lower on average because the tug of erosion wins a bit more often against uplift. So ridgelines soften and alluvial fans, rocky fans at canyon mouths, spread wider. For towns and hikers, the everyday rules remain simple. Don't build at the foot of a known rockfall chute. Keep scree off roads, plant and mulch bare slopes, fix leaks that wet the foot of a hill, use switchbacks not straight cuts on trails, and respect signs that ask you not to undercut a bank or climb a crumbly face. The earth is still the same honest partner. Give water a path, give slopes roots, give rocks room to fall safely where nobody stands, and the land will carry our homes and stories for a long time to come. Life is clever, and gravity is just another rule to learn. In a 2G world, flying becomes the most obvious challenge. Small birds still flit, but their flights are shorter and closer to hedges, fences, and ground cover where the air is calmer. Soaring birds that used to circle on weak thermals wait for stronger rising air or use ridge lift, that upward wind pushed up a hillside, to hang and glide. Bats hunt lower and rest more often. Insects with big, efficient wings still take to the air, but swarms look like a slow boil over a field rather than a cloud shooting high. Flowers and bushes closer to the ground get more visits. On the ground, animals adjust their postures. Large grazers stand wider, keep their heads lower, and move in shorter steps. Young, lighter individuals do well. Very large bodies are rarer unless they live in water, where buoyancy helps carry weight. Cats still leap, but they choose shorter counters and more certain footholds. Dogs figure out stairs and ramps and become even better at walking close to their humans where handrails and smooth paths exist. Fish live much as before because water supports them. They change depth more carefully because swim bladders feel bigger pressure changes. Species that once rose and fell easily through the water column choose narrower bands where their bodies are happiest. Plants face the change in their plumbing and structure. Water climbs inside them through tiny tubes pulled by evaporation from leaves. Extra gravity pulls down harder on that column, so very tall trees see more tension in their water pipes and risk tiny broken gaps called cavitation. The result is forests that are shorter on average, with thicker trunks and lower canopies. Grasses and shrubs do well. Vines still climb, but they need sturdier hosts and may not reach quite as high. Seeds that rely on wind don't travel as far, so plants lean more on animals for transport. Burrs get stickier, hooks sharper, fruits sweeter. Gardeners and farmers favor dwarf varieties of trees and grains because shorter plants handle wind and weight better and put energy into fruit and seed instead of sky. Crops with stout stems and deep roots, millets, sorghums, bush beans, dwarf wheat, potatoes, Sweet potatoes, yams, shine. Orchards use dwarfing rootstocks and smart trellises so branches don't snap under fruit. Beekeepers arrange hives closer to flowers and hedges so bees can fly low in calmer air. In cities, street trees are picked for strong branch unions and lower crowns that shade people without posing branch drop risks. Pruning focuses on balance, not size. Wildlife needs corridors more than ever because moving undercover is easier than fighting open wind. Hedge lines, creekside strips, and greenways help animals walk, hop, and flutter safely between feeding and resting spots. The big picture is comforting. Life doesn't quit, it reshapes. The sky is still alive with wings, just closer to the ground. Fields are still green, just with sturdier stems. Forests are still cool and shaded, just not as tall. And the songs you hear at dawn still carry, only now they travel through a denser, kinder air that holds their notes a little nearer to where you stand. A satellite stays in space by falling forward so fast that the ground curves away beneath it. The required speed depends on gravity. When gravity doubles, the orbital speed you need at a given height rises by about the square root of 2, which is roughly 41% faster. That single fact explains a lot. Many satellites in low Earth orbit, imaging craft, weather birds, communications clusters were launched with just enough speed and a little extra for steering and life extension. Under 2 grams, some of those speeds are no longer enough. Their paths droop, they dip into thicker air, and the drag slows them further. Over hours to weeks, they re-enter and burn. For a while on clear nights, you might see more streaks, small, silent meteors that are really old satellites coming home. Navigation systems like GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, and Beidou rely on constellations of satellites at medium altitudes. Those orbits also demand higher speeds now. Some craft can adjust, others cannot, and would drift off their designed paths. Ground systems would lean more on fiber optic networks, radio towers, inertial sensors, and local beacons until a new generation of satellites is launched with the right speeds and stronger engines to make midlife corrections in a heavier sky. Rockets face an obvious task. To reach orbit, you need more delta V, change in speed. That means bigger stages, smarter engines, or smaller payloads. The industry would pause, redesign, and return with launches that carry less per flight but fly safely. Reusable first stages still make sense. They save cost and time, but their return burns, and landings are retuned for heavier weight and thicker low-level air. Fancy ideas like space elevators were already hard. A 2G world makes the materials problem harder still because the tension in a tether would be larger. Balloons that carry small experiments to near space rise into thinner air sooner and top out lower. None of this closes the sky, it slows it. Weather models adapt to fewer satellite pictures by using more ground radars and aircraft data for a while. Ocean ships carry more weather buoys again. Surveying and mapping go a bit retro, with more drones and crewed flights at modest altitude gathering images. The night looks different. With fewer bright trains of satellites, stars are easier to see, and the Milky Way is more obvious from dark places. Astronomy lovers quietly cheer. Over a decade or two, new satellite families arrive, launched by heavier lift rockets or clever air-breathing-to-rocket hybrids that use dense lower air to gain speed before lighting main engines. The lesson is simple and calm. Orbit is a balance. We changed one side of it, now we adjust the other. Space is still reachable, still useful, but we treat it with more respect and more margin. On the ground, life goes on with maps, clocks and weather reports that may feel a touch more local, a touch more human, and a touch more patient while the Skytrade upgrades its tools. A good city is a helpful teammate. In a heavier world, the best places make thousands of small choices that add up to days that feel easy again. Streets trade showy stairs for gentle ramps, add handrails where hands naturally reach, and paint rest spots on the map every few minutes walk. Crosswalks and bus platforms are made level with vehicles so nobody climbs. Elevators get thicker cables, upgraded motors, and smoother controls. While crews do the work, buildings open more ground floor services so people don't need to ride as often. Sidewalks gain softer underlayers, and tree roots get real soil so the surface stays even and never trips elders. Benches are designed with arms that help you stand easily, and they're placed in shade made by well-pruned, strong-jointed street trees. Inside homes, tall storage moves lower. Heavy pots live on a waist-high shelf. Laundry baskets roll on small carts. Kitchens get footmats and slightly higher counters so backs stay straight. Bathrooms add grab bars and non-slip surfaces by default. Doors use lever handles that you can open with a forearm if your hands are full. Closets get pull-down rails. Lighting switches and outlets sit where you don't need to crouch or stretch. At work, sit-stand-lean stations replace fixed desks, so bodies change posture often. Tools get longer handles or geared assists, so twisting and lifting feel light. Logistics rooms gain gantries, chain hoists, and low-friction rollers, so one person can move a fridge or a crate with 2 fingers. Shoes get better. Rocker soles that help a smooth roll, replaceable tread, and cushioned midsoles that don't squish flat. Bikes go standard with e-assist, so hills are just scenery again. Transit doubles down, more frequent trams at modest speeds, quiet electric buses with kneeling steps, and level boarding everywhere. Sports and play redesign themselves around skill and rhythm instead of big leaps. Think rowing, dance. Martial arts caters, balance beams low to the ground, and climbing centers that focus on technique rather than height. Schools teach close carry and leg lift the way they teach reading, so children grow into safe movers. Community centers loan exoskeleton sleeves and lifting belts for people who need them for a specific task. Building codes update calmly. Lower risers, stronger anchors, wider handrails, shallower ramps, more elevators, and better drainage at slopes. Maintenance budgets favor prevention. Tighten bolts before they creak, grout before cracks widen, prune branches before they break. Culture shifts in friendly ways. Instead of praising someone for hauling a sofa alone, we praise the person who built a dolly and called a friend. Instead of huge staircases in grand lobbies, we celebrate a ramp so beautiful and easy that everyone uses it. Instead of awkward heavy doors, we install soft close and soft open everything. None of this is expensive compared to injuries, lost time, and worry. It is designed with human weight in mind. After a short season of upgrades, you'll notice something. Your days feel lighter again, even though gravity didn't change back. That's the power of a city that chooses to help. Staying healthy in a heavier world is not about becoming a powerlifter. It is about pacing, hydration, good shoes, and smart rooms. Your heart and blood vessels will adapt if you give them time. Stand up in 2 steps. Sit to perch, perch to stand. Flex calves before you rise, and pause if your vision winks grey for a second. Walking becomes your daily medicine. Short, frequent walks mixed with short rests build leg strength and train veins to return blood uphill. Breathing stays easy if rooms are cool, clean, and not stuffy. Open windows in the right weather, use fans that move air gently without blasting, and keep filters clean so each breath brings plenty of oxygen. Water and salt balance matter because you sweat a bit more doing the same chores. Carry a bottle, sip often, and season food normally unless your doctor says otherwise. Shoes are health tools. Cushioned midsoles, stable heels, and a rocker shape reduce pounding on knees and spine. Swap insoles before they flatten. Rest feet on soft mats where you stand. Strength work is simple. Body weight moves with chairs and rails, slow calf raises, sit to stands, light rows with a band, and gentle planks for a stable back. 2 or 3 short sessions each week change everything about how you feel on stairs. Balance turns into a fun habit. Stand on one foot at the counter while you stir, walk a tape line on the floor, or use a low beam at the park. In 2G, stable ankles are gold. Sleep improves when evening routines are calm and rooms are cool. A heavier world makes overheating and joint aches more likely at night, so learn to stretch lightly, use a supportive mattress topper, and place a small pillow between knees if you sleep on your side. Cooking shifts toward cookware, you can slide rather than lift. Baking sheets, cutting boards with handles, pots that travel on rolling carts from sink to stove. Kitchens and laundry rooms put the heaviest tasks at waist height. Injury prevention lives in small choices. Use a step stool instead of reaching, keep floors dry, add grab bars where hands want them, and store heavy items down low. Kids thrive when play is steady and joyful. Obstacle courses near the ground, swimming, bikes with good brakes, games that teach control. Elders thrive when neighborhoods provide shade, benches, level paths, and bus stops that are close and clear. Clinics get ready by keeping cool rooms, oxygen, blood pressure cuffs, and simple mobility aids plentiful. Community becomes real health insurance. Neighbors check on neighbors after heat waves. Families share tools. Streets feel safe to walk at dusk. If you live with heart, lung, or joint conditions, your care plan is just a more careful version of the same recipe. Cooler rooms, shorter flights of stairs, slower transitions, more seated tasks, and devices that lift and roll. The headline is not work harder, it's work smarter, slower, together. In a month, you will notice you are less tired at the end of the day. In 2 months, your legs feel confident. In 3, you hardly remember the first week's heaviness. Your life didn't shrink. It became better arranged for the body you have on the planet we share. Water always follows the easiest path, and gravity is the hand that guides it. When that hand gets stronger, everything watery gets more honest. In a 2G world, water in a pipe pushes harder on elbows and joints. Towers put more weight on their legs, and pumps must lift against a steeper head. None of this is mysterious. It just means we design and maintain with more care. The good news is that gravity-fed systems, from a hilltop tank to a neighborhood, now have stronger push without electric help, so long as we tame the pressure with pressure-reducing valves and good anchors on bends so pipes don't shove their way out of the ground. Leak hunting becomes a favorite sport because a pinhole that dripped quietly yesterday will spray today. Crews patrol with listening sticks, pressure maps, and dye tabs, and neighborhoods celebrate the boring victory of a lower loss rate painted on a public board. Wells and springs still feed towns, but pumps that lift water must now fight a heavier column. We answer by using staged pumping, shorter lifts, and more local storage. Cisterns on blocks, cool underground tanks, rooftop tanks with overflows piped to gardens, so the system works in steps instead of all at once. Inside buildings, hammer arresters and flexible connectors protect fixtures from the sharper stop-start of heavier water. Stormwater is where the new pool shows itself fastest. Rain still falls in drops, but those drops hit with a firmer patter and flow downhill with more momentum. Streets that once shed water politely may now start little rivers if we paved too much and planted too little. The cure is the same cure cities already know works: sponge design. We keep roofs green or gravelled, lay permeable paving, cut swales along curbs, and build rain gardens at corners that catch and slow the first rush. Inlets are larger and more frequent, so leaves cannot choke them. Behind each inlet, an easy-to-clean sump grabs grit before it runs to a creek. In backyards, people love barrels and tanks that fill from gutters and drain slowly to hedges and beds. In parks, we slightly lower play meadows to make flood rooms that hold a spring cloudburst like a shallow lake for a few hours while kids run along the edges in boots. On hillsides, we stitch a web of check dams, small rock and brush steps in gullies that change a ripping sheet of water into little pools that soak in, turning erosion scars into green ribbons over a season. Culverts under roads get wider and shorter. Double barrels are common so one can clog without closing the street. Their mouths wear debris racks you can rake safely. Along creeks, the smartest thing is to give room, pull fences and sheds back, let banks meander, plant deep-rooted grasses and trees that braid a living net. Wetlands that were drained get re-wetted where possible. They sponge up floods and feed rivers in dry spells. In dry regions, the same gravity that speeds runoff also helps infiltration if we let water pause. We terrace slopes, mulch like we mean it, lay contour swales, and use micro-catchments around trees so every storm is a deposit, not a withdrawal. Wastewater plants handle heavier flows after rain because inflow and infiltration into old sewers shows up. Cities separate storm from sanitary, fix joints, and add distributed reed bed wetlands and small package plants, so not every drop must sprint to a single big plant. Homes choose dual flush toilets, aerator taps, and grey water lines that irrigate hedges under mulch. None of this is fancy. It's plumbing with manners. Keep clean and dirty lines apart, slow water where it runs too fast, give it places to sit and soak, anchor anything that wants to jump, and share storage so a short outage is a shrug. After a year of these habits, the town drinks easily, floods softly, has creeks that run clearer after storms, and discovers that the best water infrastructure is a mix of pipes and plants. Feeding a city in a heavier world is about protecting soil and being kind to stems. Soil is not dirt, it is a living sponge of crumbs, roots, tunnels, and life. Heavy wheels and hooves can crush that sponge into a brick if we are careless, so the first rule is less compaction. Farmers switch to lighter equipment, narrow electric tractors, tool carriers, or fleets of small robots that scatter the load instead of one giant machine that scars a field. Where animals work, we move them often and keep them off wet ground. We rest paddocks and let roots heal. No-till or low-till becomes the default, so the soil stays laced with fungus and pores. Cover crops keep armor over the surface between main crops, feeding soil life and catching rain, so drops don't blast bare ground. On slopes, we plant on contour, add mini terraces, and grow strips, rows of grain, then rows of deep-rooted perennials, to slow water and hold the hillside. Crop choices tilt towards shorter, sturdier varieties with strong stems and deep roots. Dwarf cereals, wheat, rice, barley, millets, and sorghum that laugh at wind. Legumes like bush beans and peas that fix nitrogen. Tubers, potatoes, yams, sweet potatoes that fill bellies without asking plants to push juice to the sky. Orchards thrive on dwarfing rootstocks with trellises that carry fruit weight. Rows are pruned to keep the canopy low and balanced so branches don't tear in a storm. Vines still climb but on sturdy wires. Heavy fruit gets nets or slings that share the load. Greenhouses and hoop houses go lower and wider. Frames get an extra brace. Hanging irrigation lines clip into rails designed to carry water weight. Irrigation itself gets smarter. Drip at the base. Mulched beds that lock in moisture. Soil moisture sensors that only call for water when roots are ready. And night watering to reduce loss. Fertilizer leans natural and local. Compost made of city scraps. Biochar to hold nutrients. Rock powders, where soils need a mineral nudge. We feed the soil buffet, not just the plant. Pollinators still work. We help by planting hedgerows and flower strips so bees and butterflies can fly short, safe hops with nectar stops like a string of lights. In wet years, heavier bursts of rain can flatten crops. We answer with windbreaks, staggered planting dates, and varieties with shorter time to harvest. In dry years, the sponge we built keeps roots happy. Livestock stays, but with kinder footing. Rubber mats in milking, deep bedding, shorter ramps, chutes with gentler turns, and breeds selected for moderate size and strong legs. Aquaculture fits well where coasts and ponds are safe. Mussels, oysters, and seaweed don't mind 2 grams. Cages and lines simply need better anchors and heavier buoys. Close to town, market gardens multiply. Beds at waist height, simple trellises, and light tools that let elders and kids grow food without strain. Distribution leans on cool rooms near fields and night deliveries by rail or boat so trucks avoid heat and traffic. Kitchens adapt with sliding, not lifting, bins on wheels, scoops instead of whole bag tosses, and menus tuned to what the region grows best. The result is not a smaller plate, it is a steadier one. The food is fresh, the soil gets richer each year, and the farm feels like a partner, not a factory. People taste the difference in markets that smell of herbs and tomatoes, and in winter soups that came from a root cellar instead of a truck across a continent. Electricity doesn't weigh anything, but the things that make it do, and in a heavier world, we take care of their moving parts and supports. Solar panels are happy, sunlight is unchanged. We just mount panels on racks with beefier brackets, better roof anchors, and a little extra standoff so wind loads and heavier rain behave. Batteries enjoy ground floors and sturdy shelving. We spread them so no spot carries a silly weight, and we keep rooms cool because temperature matters more than gravity for their long life. Wind turbines feel the change both ways. Denser near-surface air lets a rotor harvest a touch more power at the same wind, but blades and hubs carry heavier loads and need bearings and gearboxes with wider margins. Owners respond with gentler control software, slightly lower cutout speeds in storms, and maintenance that swaps parts before they complain. Hydro smiles. Water falling through a turbine falls with a bit more eagerness. Penstocks and turbines take the extra push with upgraded anchors and bearings, and the same drop makes a hair more power. Pumped storage, moving water uphill when you have extra power and letting it drop through turbines when you need it, works even better in principle. Pumps and pipes just get sized for the heavier lift. Engines and motors everywhere adapt with attention to bearings, mounts and cooling. A fan moves denser air and may draw a bit more current. A conveyor carries heavier product and needs a different gear ratio. E-bikes and buses weigh more and eat a bit more energy per mile, but they also gain regenerative braking muscle. What goes up must come down, and you can harvest more on descents and stops. Power lines sag a bit more under their own weight and under ice. Utilities add spacers, tighten clearances, or replace spans with taller poles and slightly larger conductors that run cooler. In cities, the unsung hero is the microgrid. Neighborhoods with their own panels, some batteries, perhaps a small wind machine or a heat pump loop, and smart controls that island smoothly during repairs or storms. Hospitals, clinics, water plants, cold storage, and transit hubs sit at the top of the backup list. When the big grid blinks, they hardly notice. Heat pumps, which move heat instead of creating it, remain efficient champions. They need only sturdy mounts and drains that don't clog in heavy rain. Buildings remember passive tricks: shade trees, awnings, cross ventilation, night flush, thick insulation. These lower demand so machines loaf instead of strain. Cooking leans induction and pressure cookers, which are easy on air quality and use less power. Streetlights shield the sky and draw little. Demand response goes mainstream. Water heaters and freezers coast for a short time when the grid is busy, then recharge. Laundry and EV charging drift to night. A simple app keeps it subtle. The culture of power is boring in the best way: steady, quiet, with dashboards in public that show uptime, losses, and fixed leaks like batting averages. We don't chase drama, we chase reliability. The light that comes on, the clinic that never warms, the train that leaves even in weather that used to make downtown hold its breath. Ports are where land learns to shake hands with water, and at 2G, the handshake is firmer. Docks ride on piles that carry more load. We add cross-bracing and fatter footings where soils are soft. Fenders are larger, so a ferry kisses a pier without bruising. Bollards and cleats get wider bolts, and plates behind the wood so force spreads out. Mooring lines step up a size. Crews switch to low-stretch ropes where control matters and keep snubbers to soften shock. Cranes and gantries that lift containers wear new cables, pulleys and brakes rated for the heavier dance. Operators dial back swing speeds and raise wind cutoffs. Breakwaters work best when they look like nature: piles of rock with a rough face, or even better, oyster reefs and kelp forests that take bite after bite out of a wave until nothing violent remains. Towns that once built hard vertical walls now prefer stepped edges, broad stairs where people sit on quiet days, that eat wave energy like teeth on a zipper. Harbour floors shift under quicker waves, so dredging focuses on keeping a few simple, straighter channels clear, while side basins become marinas or wetlands to calm water and feed fish. Ferries and workboats change hull shapes slightly: more lift at the bow, softer entries, to ride a sharper chop without beating crews silly. Ramps for cars and feet get shallower angles, and cleats you can trust under a wet boot. Lighthouses and beacons stay, but lighting is shielded and smart. The sky remains dark enough for stars while ships still see what matters. When storms threaten, ports don't improvise, they rehearse. Boats rotate to cradles in creeks, lines double, shutters close, floating piers are loosened so they rise and fall safely, and markets run on microgrids so ice and medicine last. After the blow, bucket brigades clear drains, mesh crews collect wind-blown trash before it reaches the sea, and salvage teams recover gear so nothing dangerous drifts. Search and rescue favours. Boats with broad decks and low freeboard for easy pulls, and crews drill in low, slow lifts that respect backs. On the fun side, cities rediscover water taxis and night ferries that turn commutes into a quiet glide. Floating districts show up in calm basins, rafted neighbourhoods with gardens on roofs, muscles underfoot, and hinges that let them rise and fall safely. Navigation wisdom is layered. GPS helps when it works, but paper charts, dayboards, range markers, and old-fashioned pilotage, reading colour, chop, birds, are taught to every young mariner. When river floods meet tides, the plan is written: flood rooms open, movable barriers swing only to keep hospitals dry, not to strangle the whole estuary, and evac routes follow high spines that never go under. Ports that live long understand that the best wall is often a park that floods, The best breakwater is a reef that grows, and the best harbour is one that breathes with the tide instead of trying to win an arm wrestling match against the sea. Safety in a heavier world isn't a hero's speech. It's paperwork done right and wrenches turned on time. Building codes update in short, clear lines. Lower stair risers, stronger handrails, bigger anchors for shelves and water heaters, better brackets for rooftop gear, and standard tie-downs for anything tall or top-heavy. Decks and balconies get honest load ratings on a metal plate. If the number says 10 people, that means 10 people, not a dance party. Warehouses publish shelf limits and train everyone to read them. Schools and clinics lead by example. Every tall thing strapped, every lab bottle cradled, every oxygen cylinder chained. Inspections are friendly and public. A green sticker on a stair means it passed. An orange note lists the exact fix and the date to check again. Insurance flips from punishment to coaching, lower premiums for homes with anchored furniture, ramps instead of steep steps, working smoke and flood alarms, and a simple photo log of maintenance. Filters changed, gutters cleared, bolts tightened. Cities keep dashboards for water loss, power uptime, elevator availability, and bridge condition. They're boring to read, and that's the point. Boring means healthy. Materials favor honesty, screws and bolts, with standard heads and sizes you can buy anywhere, woods and metals that age predictably, finishes that don't flake into poison. Products arrive with service manuals written in plain language with pictures. If something can't be repaired, it's taxed more. If it comes apart with a screwdriver, it's welcome. Urban mining becomes normal. Deconstruction crews take apart old buildings like big puzzles, stack beams, bricks, copper, and fixtures for reuse, and get pride posters in the square for tons saved. Waste loops close. Take-back bins for batteries and lamps sit where people already go. Repair markets pop up weekly, swap tables in lobbies, let a heavy lamp find a new home without anyone hauling it across town. Road rules and vehicle codes adapt. Speed limits nudge down where stopping distance matters. Truck payloads derate. Tyre and brake standards rise. Work safety gets kinder. Mandatory dollies, gantries, lift tables, and team lifts. Exoskeletons checked out like library books. Bosses praised for 0 injuries more than for fast schedules. Emergency plans are posted in pictures, not hidden in binders. Valves marked, shut-offs labelled, exits clear. Twice a year the whole block drills. Gates open, pumps tested, stairs walked, radios checked. And afterward, there is lemonade, because preparedness should feel good. The culture changes in small sentences. Let's anchor that. Use a cart. Take the ramp. Call a friend. None of it is expensive compared to the cost of a single bad fall or a broken beam. Over time, the city feels quieter, not because nothing happens, but because everything important happens on schedule. The strap catches the cabinet, the rail catches the hand, the bolt was tight before the storm, and the roof stayed where roofs belong. If gravity wrote new rules, then teaching is how we remember them kindly. Schools start with bodies. Kids learn the close carry, keep weight near, the leg lift, use legs, not back, and the 2-step stand, sit to perch, perch to stand. Hallways get rails at kid height and adult height so hands always find help. Science class uses kitchen physics, spring scales that show weight doubling, pendulums that swing a bit faster, ramps where toy carts roll more eagerly. Eyes see the change, hands feel it, minds relax, because knowledge is not a rumour. Shop class comes roaring back. How to drill a pilot hole, set an anchor, strap a shelf, tie a lashing knot, check a ladder, and use a block and tackle to lift a heavy thing with a light touch. Home economics becomes life design. Slide, don't lift. Cook in trays you can move safely. Put heavy things waist high. Use a cart. Keep floors dry. Store the step stool where you actually need it. PE is balance and rhythm before sprints. Beam walks, slow tai chi, easy rowing, cycling with good breaks, dance that teaches control. Libraries and museums keep memory in layers. A kid can check out a repair kit with screwdrivers and anchors. A wall shows simple posters: how to anchor a bookcase, how to water a hillside tree, how to clean a gutter without going on the roof. Language is plain and many-tongued. Instructions live in pictures, so a visitor can help on day one. Neighborhood days, 2 in spring, 2 in fall, become tradition. Check drains, clear leaves, open valves, test radios, practice a slow walk to high ground, share soup. Trades are honored like arts. The electrician who upgrades a lift motor, the arborist who prunes for strength, the plumber who tames pressure, the tailor who adds a strap to a bag so it rides close. Media plays along. Instead of viral fails, people watch short, calm clips of fixes: anchoring a tall cabinet, bracing a water heater, installing a grab bar, setting a rain barrel on blocks, building a rolling base for a heavy plant. Signals and maps stay visible. Flood lines painted on walls, evacuation arrows on sidewalks, QR codes on valves that show what they do in any language. Archives keep the long view: a shelf of printed manuals, etched plates of key maps, a simple wind-up radio, and light in every school, and a tiny museum of how we adapted to 2G, so new generations smile at how quickly people learned. Games carry lessons without scolding. Board games about building a block with ramps and rails under budget. Phone puzzles where you reroute stormwater to gardens. Club challenges to lower your building's water losses or anchor every tall thing. Rituals make it stick. A short speech at graduation about anchoring your first shelf. A small pin for volunteers who passed the Fix It course. A yearly parade for the ditch crew that kept the monsoon honest. And always, kindness. We talk to elders before changes. We put signs lower for children. We translate. We teach with a laugh. We praise the person who asks for help. That is how a community stays light on its feet in a heavier world, not with fear, but with shared skill, clear memory, and everyday science that lives in hands, halls, and hearts. Good laws are just clear promises we make to each other, written in a way that still makes sense on a rainy Tuesday 10 years from now. In a 2G world, the best rules are the ones that move with nature instead of pretending nature will obey a line on a map. Start with water, because water touches everything. Towns draw up watershed compacts, plain language agreements between everyone who lives along the same river or aquifer. The first promise is always drinking water first, posted where anyone can see it. The second is river health: enough flow for fish and for the river to clean itself. Only after those two do farms, factories, and lawns take their share. Meters and gauges make this honest. A staff gauge at the bridge shows levels you can read with your eyes, and a simple website mirrors it. When the river drops below a marked line, water use steps down in stages that were agreed on before the dry spell, so there's no fighting in the heat. On the coast, towns adopt rolling easements, the legal way to say the shoreline can walk inland or out, and our rules will walk with it. That means no one gets to build a wall and force waves into the neighbour's living room. Instead, we keep flood rooms, parks, marsh edges, and stepped plazas that welcome high water without panic. On hills, Permits for new houses come with slope care in the fine print. The driveway runs across the hill, not straight up and down. Gutters feed a rain garden. Trees you cut must be replaced with roots that hold soil, and if you own the top of a gully, you must keep check dams in place so one storm doesn't carve a mess into the street below. In neighborhoods, we write anchor rules into home sales and rentals. Tall furniture is strapped, water heaters and tanks are braced, heavy things live low. Landlords provide grab bars on request. Stair risers stay shallow. For builders and shops, the rules are boring on purpose. Standard fasteners, repairable parts, printed service manuals in a pocket on the machine, and a small bond that you only get back when you show the city where the old parts went for reuse or safe recycling. Fairness also means access. A ramp you can roll is not a favor. It is the law, and it makes life easier for a courier with a cart, a parent with a stroller, an elder with a cane, and a worker pushing a tool chest. Transit rules follow the same kindness: level boarding, handrails that fit a hand, and schedules that don't punish people who move more slowly in a heavier world. Prices tell the truth. Water is cheaper for the first daily bucket a home needs, and costlier for filling a decorative pond at noon in August. Power is cheapest when there is plenty and gently higher when the grid is tight, so machines and chores drift to the right hours automatically. Disagreements don't head straight to court, they go first to a street circle. A small board of neighbours and a neutral craftsperson who understands slopes, pipes and trees. They walk the site, look at the gauge, and settle most issues with a pencil and a calendar. Fix this drain by Friday. Plant 3 shrubs on this bank. Move those pavers. Check again after the next rain. If someone keeps breaking promises, then yes, fines arrive. But most of the time people just wanted clarity and a fair plan. We also protect future hands by giving land and water a simple voice in our rules. A river has the right to flow. A hillside has the right to keep its skin. A marsh has the right to migrate. A flood has the right to spread in the places marked for it. Those lines in the book make meetings shorter, not longer. Finally, we keep all of this visible. Maps are on the library wall and online. Valves are labelled. High water marks are painted on bridge abutments with the date. The list of who sits on the watershed board is posted with phone numbers. Laws that hide don't help anyone. Laws that you can point to on a walk become part of daily common sense, and common sense is what keeps a heavier world running smoothly. People have always moved when seasons, jobs, rivers, or coastlines changed. In a heavier world, moving is still part of life, and the places that do it well treat migration like a season, not a scandal. The first part of moving well is knowing the paths. Towns keep ridge trails, flood-safe roads, ferries, and rail lines marked and open. Each spring and fall, crews walk them like gardeners, walk rows, cutting back brush, clearing culverts, repainting wayfinding, checking ramps and docks, and setting out clean water taps and shade tents at intervals. The second part is welcome with a plan. Cities keep a quiet hospitality ledger. How many spare beds and cots they can set up in schools and halls. How many kitchens can serve simple meals. How many nurses and translators can staff clinics. How many pallets of mats and blankets sit in a dry warehouse. These aren't hidden. They're posted and drilled twice a year, so nothing surprises anyone. People who arrive under a drought or flood compact know what they can count on. A place to sleep, a way to register quickly in their own language, a simple card that gets food and transit for a set time, and clear paths to work that help the host city too. Fixing trails, planting trees, anchoring shelves in public buildings, cleaning drains, rebuilding ramps, cooking in community kitchens, caring for elders, tutoring kids. people who host know what they will get: help, not just needs. Identity and pride travel better than furniture, so towns ask arrivals about skills first: gardening, welding, childcare, food safety, sewing, carpentry, languages, basic first aid, and plug them into teams that already know what needs doing this season. The third part is rights and duties written simply. Guests get safety, water, food, healthcare, school for children, and the right to rent a room or a stall in the market. Guests agree to share the work that keeps the place safe: ditch clearing day, flood drill, market cleanup, tool check. After a set time, if the compact extends, guests vote in street councils that make small local decisions. Paperwork is short: one form, many languages, simple photos, no tricks. The fourth part is money that moves with people. A tiny slice of national funds travels with every registered mover to the host city automatically, and another small slice returns to the home city to keep it ready for the day people come back. Remittances are easy and cheap. The fifth part is culture. Schools pair sister classes so kids share stories about their old and new neighborhoods. Markets host arrival nights with food from many kitchens. Music and games do the quiet work of making strangers into neighbors. None of this ignores real limits. Housing takes time, water takes pipes, feelings take care. But when moving is treated as normal, it is kinder and cheaper than when it is treated as a surprise every time. And remember, the same ramps, benches, low steps, and level transit that help someone new with a heavy bag also help a delivery person, a parent with a stroller, an elder with a cane, and anyone who had a long day. In a heavier world, the best compliment a city can earn is, "It's easy to arrive here." If it's easy to arrive, it's easy to belong. There is no away on the small planet. The bin behind the shop is not the end of the story. It is a detour waiting for a better decision. A heavier world makes lazy designs complain sooner, which is a gift, because it pushes us toward materials that live long and come apart easily, and start with design. If something must be heavy, an appliance, a window, a door, make it in modules that two people can carry safely or that can roll on a dolly. Use standard fasteners instead of glue where possible so you can open it with a normal tool. Label parts so a future repair tech knows what they're looking at without hunting. Avoid mixed materials that can't be separated without a fight. Lighten where you can. Honeycomb panels, thin, strong shells, smart ribs, and foam cores that are safe and recyclable later. For packaging, go returnable and stackable for heavy goods. Crates, totes, and bins with strong handles, and compostable wraps for food and light items. In stores and depots, heavy items sit low. Shelves show safe limits. Stairs have rails. Carts have big soft wheels. And there is always a lift table or a gantry so a person doesn't have to be a hero to move a box. Trash becomes inventory. Cities set up materials yards where deconstruction crews sell clean beams, bricks, roof tiles, windows, copper, wire, ducting, lamps, sinks, and doors, all tagged with size and condition. Old plates and pans go to a re-tinning booth instead of a bin. Small motors go to a rewind shop. Phones and laptops live again after a battery and screen swap. Shoes get resold. Tailors add straps and wheels to bags. Repair markets pop up weekly in school gyms. Tables of volunteers and pros who fix lamps, tune bikes, mend clothes, and help anchor bookcases while you wait. Plastics get honest. Durable plastics stay in closed loops, pipes, buckets, tiles, where they can be collected and ground back into pellets. Single-use flimsy plastics fade out, replaced by paper, plant fiber, or simply nothing when we decide we don't need a wrapper for something that isn't going to travel far. Metals are guarded like treasure because they are. Copper, aluminum, steel, and rare bits from electronics are mapped in the city like rivers and bridges. We know where they are, who keeps them, and how to get them back into use. Organic waste becomes soil food again. Every block has a clean, smell-free bin. Trucks carry the pulp to composting sites and worm farms. Gardens and farms buy back black, sweet compost to build the sponge that keeps floods and droughts soft. The tiny bit of truly dangerous waste, certain chemicals, some medical stuff, a sliver of radioactive byproduct, goes to long-life vaults with plain warning signs, simple maps, and a calendar for inspections that the public can attend. Schools visit once a year to see how grown-ups keep promises for things that must be watched a long time. Money helps good habits along. A small return deposit on electronics, batteries, and appliances that you get back when you bring the old one. A small fee on hard-to-recycle junk that nudges designers to do better. A discount for refills and repairs. A tax break for deconstruction crews that save most of a building instead of smashing it. Most of all, we change the story we tell. The nice thing is not the newest thing, it's the longest lived thing. The compliment is not brand new kitchen, it is, this stove has worked for 20 years and the manual is still in the drawer. In a heavier world, that is good taste. When the world asks us to move more carefully and design more kindly, the most valuable tool is clear memory. We keep memory in words, pictures, music, habits, and in small objects that teach by being themselves. Schools, libraries, and community centres become lighthouses, places where knowledge stays lit even when the power blinks. Start with language. Put instructions in many tongues and in pictures. A diagram of how to strap a shelf, a picture of a flood route, a drawing of a tree planted on contour. These help a new neighbour on day one. Keep the tone calm and kind. People learn better when they feel respected. In classrooms, we teach household science with simple props, a clear tube and water to show pressure, a pendulum that swings a bit faster under a heavier pull, a tray of sand and a spray bottle to show why mulch and cover matter. We mix books with doing. Kids anchor a real bookcase, set a rain barrel on blocks, plant a shrub, change a bike brake pad, and write what they did in a small logbook they keep. Libraries lend tools as well as books, stud finders, strap kits, socket sets, block and tackle kits, folding ramps, sewing machines, and dollies. The rule is simple. Bring it back on time. If you break it, we fix it together and call it a lesson. Museums show handles, hinges, pulleys, and pumps alongside art. You can touch them, lift them, and feel how good designs share load, so a person can do big things gently. Music and story help too. Songs for children include the water song about closing valves and opening gates before a storm. Bedtime stories include the anchor tale about a bookshelf that stayed. Festivals include a parade of tools where people decorate hand trucks and brooms, and the ditch crew rides first. Archives hold the long, slow stuff, printed manuals on real paper, etched metal plates of key maps and high water marks, seed drawers labelled in big, clear letters, a hand crank radio, and light in every reading room with the instructions taped to them. We keep digital files, but we don't hide key knowledge behind passwords and power. We mirror it in analog form because floods and fires don't read legal fine print. Broadcast stations practice calm language, weather in short sentences, warnings without drama, check-ins after storms that are practical. Street A is clear, Street B needs a shovel team, boil water on the west side until noon, and then music that lets people breathe. Games make practice feel like play. Board games where you place trees and rain gardens to keep a block dry under 2G rain. Phone puzzles where you plan a train network that helps elders reach clinics in 3 stops. School contests to lower a building's water losses with leak hunts and new gaskets. Traditions tie it all together. Twice a year, everyone, from the smallest kid to the oldest grandparent, walks the evacuation route to high ground at a gentle pace, chatting and snacking along the way. Once a year, the town holds Fix-It Day, when you bring one thing to mend and one skill to share. People clap for teachers, plumbers, gardeners, line workers, and nurses on the same stage, because all of them keep days smooth. Out on the street, knowledge is painted on walls at child height and adult height, flood lines, safe routes, the name and phone number of the person who keeps the market's generator topped up. When we can see what to do, we do it. And when we can teach what we do, we keep it. Coastal life is a partnership with a moving edge. In a heavier world, the edge moves with a little more muscle, so we match it with good craft and good manners. Start with boats. Hulls get a touch more lift forward so they don't pound in sharper chop. Decks sit a bit lower so hands can reach the water and lift with shorter levers. Cleats, bollards and fenders all step up in size, and snubbers are standard on lines so jerks become gentle pulls. Engines and motors are not oversized. They are reliable and easy to maintain. Spares live in labelled bins. The manual, with greasy fingerprints, is tucked in a clear sleeve. Sails still work because wind is free and steady. Reefing early is the habit. Piers ride on piles with cross-bracing. The top is grippy but kind to knees. Ramps down to floating sections are longer and flatter. Handrails are on both sides without gaps so a child and an elder can use the same ramp. Breakwaters prefer to be oyster reefs or rock gardens that grow or settle naturally. Concrete only where needed, and then shaped to be a home for kelp, mussels, and fish. Beaches are allowed to move. Instead of only hard walls that reflect waves, towns build dunes with tough grasses and fence them kindly. They plant mangroves in warm places and salt marsh in cooler ones so roots catch drifting sand and mud. Harbours keep channels simple and short. Dredging schedules are steady. Side basins are turned into quiet coves for small boats and nursery shallows for fish. Fisherfolk adapt gear for heavier pulls. Smaller nets hauled more often. Winches that take strain, rollers that guide ropes, and rules that avoid scraping bottom so seafloors stay alive. Aquaculture is gentle and mixed. Mussels on ropes, oysters on reefs, strips of seaweed between, each helping the other and cleaning the water. When storms threaten, scripts open like a play. Boats to cradles or deep water on long scopes. Floating docks loosened to rise safely, shutters closed, pallets lifted, fuel topped, radios tested, neighbours checked. Streets near water are built as flood rooms with drain grates that are easy to clean, trees that can stand in brackish water, and step seats where people gather on ordinary nights. Ports think about hands, lift points at good heights, carts and hoists everywhere, and a culture that says roll it before it says lift it. Navigation keeps one foot in the old ways and one in the new. GPS is great, but beacons, range markers, and paper charts stay, and every kid who rows a dinghy learns to read watercolour, ripples, and bird lines. The sea gives gifts, but it is not a vending machine. We return the favour by keeping trash out, lights down, noise low, and wetlands wide, and by making shore streets slow and safe so families can walk at dusk and watch the last glow behind the reef without worrying about cars or a sudden step with no rail. When a town treats the edge like a neighbour, The neighbour keeps showing up with fish, cool breezes, and a horizon that heals tired eyes. Every place has its rare days, the big rain, the sharp wind, the hillside slip, the heat wave, the long outage. The best defense is a boring one. Practice, simple tools, clear maps, and people who know their part. Start with watching. Put old-fashioned rain gauges on posts where kids can read them, river staffs at bridges, tide boards in coves, and simple wind cups on school roofs. Clinics keep a quiet count of coughs, fevers, and heat stress. When any number crosses a line, the town acts early. Signals are layered, a bell code at the hall, a text, a radio voice on the local station, lights on a small tower near the square, and signs flipped at key corners. None of these rely on just one wire or one app. Maps live in people's heads because they also live on walls and sidewalks, flood paths in blue paint with arrows to high ground, safe houses with a small blue light, valves and shutoffs with labels, and a QR code that shows, in pictures, how to use them. Twice a year, on a mild morning, the whole block drills. Gates and pumps are tested. Generators are started under load for 10 minutes and then shut down gently so they live long. People walk the stairs they would use, slowly, with kids and elders first. The drill ends with lemonade and shade because practice should feel like a picnic, not a scolding. Kits are ordinary: a headlamp, a small radio that cranks or runs on a battery, a bottle of water, a snack, a printed card with phone numbers, a copy of any medicines, a spare pair of socks, a whistle. Shelters are ordinary places: schools, churches, community halls, kept ready with cots, fans, first aid, outlets, and a smiling person at the door with a list and a pen. Mutual aid is not a hashtag. It's a handwritten sheet in the hall with names and what people can bring. A chainsaw and safe operator, a pickup, a big pot for soup, a freezer with space, language skills, a nurse's license, a good ladder, a raft, a set of sockets. During heat waves, cool rooms open early. Buses run free to them. Street teams check on elders. Ice and fans are handed out kindly. Lights are dimmed where not needed to keep the grid steady. During storms, crews pre-stage sand and gravel at known trouble corners. Gutters are cleared, scaffolds are tied, awnings are rolled, boats are doubled on lines, windows are latched, market tents come down. After the event, the plan is written. The first hour is water, shade and toilets. The first day is clearing drains and streets. The first week is drying houses and stopping mold. The first month is fixing what broke and not putting back the same risk. Money is ready and simple. Small, fast grants to anyone on a wet street. No 12 forms. A photo and a signature. Audits later, by neighbours and a rotating citizen board keep it honest. Above all is the calm voice. In every town there is a person or a small team who reads the weather plainly, gives times not drama, thanks the ditch crew by name on the air, and says, "We've done this before, we're ready, we'll do it again." That voice matters. It slows breathing, steadies hands, and reminds everyone that a heavier world is not a scarier world when we hold the right habits together. And when night comes after a long day, that voice ends with simple instructions for the morning: who meets where, what tools to bring, where coffee will be, and a soft good night, which is a promise as much as a wish. An economy is just the set of habits we agree on for getting things done and thanking each other fairly. In a 2G world, the most successful places switch from buy fast, throw fast to a calmer rule: pay the whole cost and keep things working. That sounds boring, and that is exactly why it works. When the body, the shelf, the truck, and the bridge all feel heavier, it becomes smart, not fancy, to design work so one person with a simple tool can do it safely. Shops choose parts that use standard bolts and common bearings, not glue and mystery clips. Appliances split into modules so two people can move a section on a dolly instead of four people lifting the whole beast. Contracts include service manuals written like cookbooks, not puzzles. Prices tell the truth by including maintenance and take-back. If you sell a machine, you either take it back when it's done, or you pay into a materials fund that hires a deconstruction crew later. Warranties follow the object when it changes hands, so second-hand becomes normal and proud. Utilities and public works publish simple scoreboards. Water loss rate this month, outage minutes this quarter, bridges inspected on time, leaks found and fixed. People check those numbers the way sports fans check scores, because they mean comfort and safety. Insurance flips from paying for disasters to paying for prevention. Lower bills for anchored shelves, softer stairs, clean gutters, strapped water heaters, shaded streets, firewise yards, and roofs that can be unbolted and reused. Work itself gets kinder and smarter. The heroes are glove jobs that never go out of style. Electricians who upgrade elevator motors and test brakes. Plumbers who tame heavy water with pressure reducers and hammer arresters. Carpenters who add braces and rails. Arborists who prune for strong unions and shade. Masons who reset loose steps. Mechanics who swap bearings before motors whine. Welders who give a tired bridge another decade. Gardeners who keep soil spongy so floods go quiet. Training is hands-on and open. You can pass a city test on a Saturday by anchoring a shelf, fitting a gasket, wiring a small panel to code, and reading a pressure gauge correctly. When you pass, your name goes on a public list, and you can pick up paid shifts. Money gains a slow coin side. Every household gets a small budget that can be spent only on shared goods, shade trees, levee mowing, library tools, clinic coolers, school roof repairs, alley lights, reed bed wetlands, rain gardens. The slow coin expires if ignored, so neighborhoods use it with pride. People trade hours for hours in a time bank. 90 minutes of gutter clearing earns 90 minutes of help installing a ramp. 2 hours of tutoring earns 2 hours of childcare next month. Logistics shift to rail and water for heavy freight. Trucks stay but carry lighter loads more often. Last mile delivery is on feet, cargo bikes, and small trolleys that roll more than lift. Shops rent tools, gantries, hoists, lift tables, exo sleeves, the way libraries loan books. Festivals celebrate maintenance. The parade's first float is the ditch crew who kept the monsoon honest. Blue ribbons go to the deconstruction team that saved the most brick. A scoreboard shows the city's leaks dropping for the third year. Kids cheer the elevator tech who explains how a brake test works. Ambition does not vanish. It changes target. The new brag is not, "We built it tallest." It is, "Nothing important broke, nobody got hurt, everything that wore out became something else, and the lights stayed on." In a heavier world, those boring miracles are the real treasure, and the economy that prizes them is the one that sleeps well. Soil is not dirt, it is a living sponge made of crumbs, roots, tunnels, fungi, and tiny animals. In 2G, that sponge is squeezed harder by feet, hooves, wheels, and rain. So the first rule is to protect its pores. Fields stay covered with cover crops and mulch. Tractors get lighter or split into fleets of small electric units. Animals move in tight groups for short stays and then rest a pasture so roots can knit the ground again. On slopes, farmers plant on contour, add mini terraces, and mix rows of annuals with rows of deep-rooted perennials, so fast water is forced to slow down and soak in. Biochar made from prunings is mixed into beds to hold water and nutrients like a pantry. Compost from kitchens and markets feeds the invisible life that glues crumbs together. Hedgerows stitch fields to creeks and give insects and birds short, safe flight paths in heavier air. In forests, the rule is cool fire often beats hot fire rarely. Where the natural rhythm includes fire, crews and tribal burners, set cool season prescribed burns that creep and clean, eating dry leaves and small sticks so a summer spark has little to climb. Where peat holds carbon like a vault, managers keep water high so it doesn't smoulder. Drained peat is re-wetted and planted. Thinning ladder fuels, grazing fuel breaks with goats and sheep, and clearing around homes, metal roofs, clean gutters, 5 meters of tidy ground, turn neighborhoods into poor targets for embers. Mangroves, salt marsh, and seagrass lines guard coasts, catching sediment, calming waves, and rising with seas. They are cheaper than concrete and they grow stronger with time. Grasslands return where climate asks for them, managed with moving herds that mimic old migrations, pressing seeds in and feeding soil without letting hooves tear it up. Invasive species are handled like leaks. Find early, act early, clean gear, clean boots, clean boats, and don't give hitchhikers a ride. Where a new species is now part of the system and cannot be removed, managers design around it with honest maps and limits. City trees earn careful love. Choose strong branch unions. Prune for balance. Keep crowns lower to resist wind. Give roots real soil under sidewalks with structural cells, and plant mixes so one pest cannot ruin a whole avenue. Water loves paths. Crews build swales, rain gardens, check dams, and flood rooms so sudden downpours become quiet soaks. Schools teach with hands. Kids plant a contour line, light a match in a safe tray to learn how fine fuels burn, weigh a soil lump wet and dry to see how sponges work, and visit a prescribed burn from a safe ridge to feel how calm, trained fire looks and sounds. None of this is exotic. It is care, repeated. If we keep the sponge thick, the forest mixed, the fire cool where it belongs, and the coast fringed with living breakwaters, then heavy rain and hot wind become work we already know how to do. The reward is clear water after storms, small fires that stay small, fields that don't blow into the sky, trees that hold through a gale, and towns that smell of damp earth after rain instead of smoke and dust. Life never stops trying things. In a 2G world, the cast of characters changes a little, but the play keeps running because the smallest actors, microbes and fungi, hold the script. Bacteria and archaea eat rocks, breathe metals, free nutrients, make films that glue soil, and even seed clouds. Fungi weave mycelium through soil and wood, trading sugars for minerals with roots and moving water like tiny pipes. These quiet workers decide whether a field is bouncy or crusty, whether a hillside holds after a storm, whether a forest floor smells sweet and returns food to roots. Under heavier air and faster raindrops, their webs matter more, so practices that feed them, no-till, mulch, compost teas, leaving coarse wood to rot, planting mixes, pay off twice. Mutualisms, win-win partnerships, shuffle and reform. Some flowers move closer to the ground. Bees and moths choose shorter trips with richer nectar stops. Birds switch tree species or timing. Corals that struggled in past heat waves team up with hardier symbionts. Lichens paint new rocks in new colors. Edges, where forest meets grass, fresh meets salt, warm meets cool, stay the most inventive. There you see new mixes of species working out truce deals that keep energy flowing. Shrubs that host more insects so birds can feed without long flights. Fish that spawn in reeds that grew where a marsh migrated. City foxes and owls that hunt along rail trails because people planted cover. Some exotics, new arrivals, behave badly and are pushed back early with hand pulls, grazing, and smart biocontrol. Some fit a new role without harm and are tolerated under watch. Big animals adjust in plain ways: shorter leaps, wider stances, paths under hedge tunnels instead of across open fields. Amphibians rely on chains of small ponds that hold water longer because the land has more sponge. Bats hunt closer to hedgerows. Dragonflies stitch air over wet meadows protected from heavy feet. Cities become wild corridors when designers stop pretending nature is out there and instead line streets with native plant strips, keep dark night windows for insects, build little fish stairs past culverts, and cut small holes in fences so hedgehogs and turtles can pass. People help with eyes and phones. Low-key citizen science where anyone can log a flowering date, a frog call, a bird path, a jellyfish bloom, a mushroom ring. Those notes, added up, become a memory of how life reshaped itself and a guide for gardeners, farmers, foresters, and fishers. Surprises will still surprise. A moth outbreak that ends not with poison, but with a wave of wasps and birds. A reef that looks dead for 3 years and then erupts with juveniles because currents brought the right larvae. A city vacant lot that becomes the best pollinator bed in 10 blocks, teaching planners that messy can be useful. The lesson is humility with a measuring tape. Watch, record, nudge gently, give room, and be willing to say, this patch wants to be wet grass with willow, or this roof wants to be a bee meadow, or this canal wants fewer straight lines. In a heavier world, edges and small lives carry big loads. Respect them, and they repay in clean water, steady soil, and evenings full of wings close enough to see. Even if most of us never leave the ground, the sky above still needs good manners. The sun sometimes spits storms, solar flares, and coronal mass ejections that rattle Earth's magnetic shield and can confuse grids and radios. Smart towns treat space weather like regular weather, a simple alert system that shifts the grid into a safe posture, parks some long lines, and relies on local microgrids for a few hours. Lights stay on. The public hears a calm note on the radio. Space storm tonight, we're in sturdy mode. In orbit, the rule is leave no junk. Satellites are coated and shaped to be darker so they don't erase the stars. They carry real deorbit plans or go to quiet graveyard lanes when their work is done. Constellations publish maps and brightness numbers so astronomers can plan, and regulators say no to designs that would turn the night into a billboard. Asteroid watching is not a plot from a movie. It's a steady, boring, international habit with small telescopes and good software. If we ever need to nudge a rock, we use kinetic taps or gravity tractors tested long before, and we talk about it openly so nobody panics. Launch is slow, but do not stop in 2G. Rockets need more push, so we make stages tougher, engines smarter, and runways longer for air-breathing assist craft. We launch for reasons that earn the smoke: weather eyes, rescue radios, farm images, disaster maps, science. Space elevators remain dreamy. Tether stress in 2G makes them less likely, so we put effort where it pays soon. The night sky belongs to everyone. Cities enforce down-shielded lighting, warm color LEDs at the lowest needed brightness, and motion sensors in late hours. You can still see the Milky Way from the park, and kids can still learn the constellations. On the moon or in high orbit, we keep archives. etched plates, simple readers, redundant copies, because fire and flood have long memories and paper burns. Those beacons are built to be read by anyone with a lens and patience. When people go farther, to Mars, to icy moons, they go as careful gardeners, closing loops on water and air, packing out every scrap, and leaving soils, alien or earthly, unharmed. Radios share the air politely, astronomy gets quiet zones, emergency services get clean bands, ships and planes talk without stepping on each other. The reward for these simple manners is huge. Dark nights for sleep and wonder, safe grids in solar storms, clean orbits that don't snowball into debris, and a culture that treats the sky not as a dump or a billboard, but as a commons to be used gently. We do not need drama to feel awe. A child seeing a faint green aurora above a quiet town with the Pleiades sharp and a single polite satellite slipping by will learn the same lesson we did. We live on a small, beautiful world, and sharing it well includes